Hey guys, I'm Liza with Hodgepodge Studio, and today we're going to be going through my process on making this dinosaur in a shark costume, inspired by Reggie's dinosaur in a shark costume toy. Reggie, you want that? No? He's a little camera shy. So, just want to go through. I used very cheap craft paint to paint this. It was made with Sculpey, Super Sculpey, which ironically has a Tyrannosaurus Rex on the front of it. And stay tuned and check out the process. So I apparently forgot to record the first part of this video, so I apologize about that. But here I am working on bulking out the legs and kind of smoothing everything out. Now, you'll notice that the shape of this T-Rex is very strange, but, I know that he doesn't really have legs, but I also knew that he was going to be in a costume, so he looks pretty funny. But that's okay, because here I am just bulking him out for what seems to be forever, even though this is super sped up. Obviously, I can't work this fast. This is about 100 times the speed as I actually work. So just bear with me here. Keep in mind that the middle of this dinosaur is aluminum foil. So I do bulk it out with aluminum foil before I put the Super Sculpey on top. And I do that because it helps it bake more easily. It keeps it a lot lighter weight. And I save a hell of a lot of money on Sculpey by not making the whole thing full of Sculpey. So I like to do it this way. And honestly, at the end of the day, if you don't bulk it out with foil, it's more likely to crack because it can't bake the inside properly, and there's a lot of science involved that I don't understand. But really, at the end of the day, bulk as much out as you can with foil, but leave enough room that you can put details and, kind of go into it. So this is one of my favorite tools. It's a metal tool. I actually will have it linked underneath this video, but it looks kind of like a dentistry tool. And I think when I first got this tool, it actually was from the dentist or something really similar to that. But on one side, it's a bill tool. And on the other side, it's like this weird curved pointy tool that on one side makes like really sharp edges and on the other side makes really soft edges. And then these other tools I'm using are ball tools that have these like soft plastic edges. And those are really good for making soft indentations, and the sharper edges are obviously good for sharper indentations. Surprise. So I'm working on these feet for an eternity. Honestly, this whole thing took me so long because I haven't done something like this in a long time. And I was kind of just getting into the groove of things. And I'll be honest with you, when I got the Super Sculpey, it was so hard. It made it so much harder to work with, and I had no clay conditioner. So it took me forever. It really should not have taken this long, but the hardness of the clay was ridiculous. So eventually I got clay conditioner at some point in this video, and it made this thing fly by. But for now, I'm struggling. And honestly, I highly recommend you get the Sculpey clay conditioner because it will change lives. I must have put the Sculpey through the pasta maker 100 times to try to condition it, and it honestly just kept cracking. It didn't work. I was really surprised when I cooked this or baked this dinosaur that it didn't crack all over the place, just because I should have used clay conditioner from the start, but I don't know. I was being stubborn and didn't order any because I thought I was better than that. I don't know. I'm really not. I look, we need the tools we need at the end of the day. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm starting to put the dinosaur costume on. These are the like the elastic pieces around the feet. They will look like elastic pieces around the feet at some point. But the whole point of giving him no legs was to make him look like he had like a really baggy costume on. And right now it just looks ridiculous. But he does get cuter, obviously. You saw from the beginning. Does it make sense? I don't know. Did I study anatomy? Surprisingly, yes, I did. But, I'm not a paleontologist, nor do I care. I just want it to look cute. I'm a big dinosaur fan, and I think animals in costumes are hilarious. So this whole idea was really fun. Now, this little glass container full of paint or coated in paint is actually full of rubbing alcohol, or I guess it was hydrogen, it was isopropyl alcohol. And I just kept dipping my tools in that because it does help smooth things out, especially if you have like a lot of like, if you take the tool and you run it across the clay really hard and it makes all those like little clay balls that pop up everywhere. Yeah, so the rubbing alcohol or the isopropyl or whatever you use, they all work. If you rub it against it, those little pieces that like fly everywhere will actually smooth out, and it makes it much easier to not make like a messy looking piece, if you understand what I'm saying. So I used that thinking that, maybe this could act as my clay softener, which I'll be honest with you, it helped, but it really didn't do the job it needed to do. I needed clay softener. So, I was always told you can use Vaseline and you can use alcohol, and they do different things, but if you use too much, it makes a mess. Well, I didn't use Vaseline because, in my experience, that makes a mess regardless. But I figured the alcohol might help temporarily. So this is me putting the hood on. I had to, make some cuts, obviously, because I didn't want it to fold funny. But I did also want it to be a hood. Now, in hindsight here, I wouldn't have left such a large gap between his head and the hood, regardless of how realistic it looks. Are you camera shy? Are you camera shy? Are you camera shy? That leaving a gap between his head and the hood made it so much harder to paint. In the future, I probably would have just let everything touch his head, like be flush to it. It would have been much, much, much easier. So, live and learn. I'm attaching the arms here. I think originally I was going to put little elastics around where his arms go, which, in hindsight also might have been a little easier to paint, but I didn't do that. And I still think it turned out pretty cute, so it worked out. Here I'm making the little armbands. There are a dozen ways to do this. I ran it through the pasta roller and just sliced it with my slicer tool. I'm just smoothing things out here. I'm trying to figure out different ways to make textures for the fabric. But also Reggie, who you just met, the little corgi, he sheds everywhere. I had to pull so much hair out of this dinosaur, so every once in a while you'll see me like making little picks to him. Yeah, thanks, Reg. Love you to death, but the hair is just everywhere. At this point, so what I skipped here is, he needs some teeth. And the easiest way to put teeth in, honestly, is to just roll some little cylinders, little teeth-shaped pieces, and bake them. And then shove them in like toothpicks. Because I tried to put nails on this guy multiple times, like toenails and fingernails, and they just get so smushed. So I took all the toenails off, I took all the teeth off, and I just baked everything and just started shoving them in there because at the end of the day, this is the best way to do it. It holds its shape. You don't bake it the full amount of time. I mean, I baked these teeth for probably, 10 minutes. And the tweezers, honestly, I was very surprised they didn't indent the teeth when I was working with them, but they didn't. So I was getting really irritated trying to film myself painting this, so I didn't paint it from the start. But I gave the dinosaur a coat of black first, and then I gave him his shark costume a coat of blue. I didn't prime it or anything. This is just really cheap craft paint like I showed you before. And I just had to give it a lot of coats and then just kind of blotch it on in different areas. So the fabric, I will make a mix at some point. I can't remember if I show you here, but I do make a mix and just kind of dry brush it on top of the fabric. And then I do dry brush the scales as well. And then I just go in with a really, really small paintbrush and get the eyes, the little stripes on his face, his teeth, his nails, and all those little crevices. And honestly, painting, that's the hardest part, getting the little details. The big stuff, it goes pretty fast. Now, I'm not an incredible painter when it comes to 3D. I'm just not an incredible painter to begin with. I actually got a lecture from my professor in college, which was a long time ago, but I got a lecture from him about how terrible I was at painting. So I think I've improved a lot, but I have a lot to learn still. I do really like how this guy turned out though, so I'm pretty proud of myself for my painting on this one. But yeah, cheap craft paint was really how I went on this. And, you know, I gave him a kind of like a Swedish look, as my mom called it, by just dry brushing his costume with, you know, different blues and grays. So I realized that I didn't explain the scales that I made, and I'm going to have to explain that in another video. I made a special tool for him. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. I had so much fun making this guy. I've named him Terry the T-Rex. I've had so much fun making him that I think I'm going to do a series of different dinosaurs and animal costumes. I don't know. Hit the subscribe button and see what's next. Talk to you soon.